Good morning, good morning, good morning. This is Good Morning Business Owners with me, Leon Street. Welcome. And today, dealing with an interesting topic. And I guess it's a topic that, in many ways, we're all aware of, which is death. But I want to speak specifically about how to use death and your own mortality as fuel to win in your business, in your life, in everything that you do. And I've got a few things that I want to discuss today, and it's not meant to be, I guess, from a morbid, angle. It's more about how to use something that is something that we all have to go through as fuel to do whatever it is that we're meant to do as our purpose, our why, and just really fulfill on that. Something that we can use to just take us out of comfort zone and take us to a different place of achievement, fulfillment, love, passion, all the right things, I would say, in life. And I've got a few things that I want to discuss with you. So as ever, guys, if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, make sure you click on the subscribe button and click on the notification bell to make sure you're notified of all upcoming videos first, and give me a thumbs up by clicking on the thumbs up icon, which should go from gray to blue. If you're enjoying this, if you're watching this on Facebook, welcome as ever. If it's the first time you're watching me, I'm sure you're in for a treat. As we cover some essential content that will help you to, I guess, go to the next level. Now, if you got any questions, drop them in a comment below the video, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube, and I will come back to them and answer all your questions. So let's dig into this. So how to use death and your mortality as fuel to win. So why would you use mortality? So this is a question, I guess, that you can consider. And the best way for me to get you to think is to answer a question, because then it will help you to use the creative part of you to solve the problem, I guess, or at least start that path of awareness. So do you want to leave everything you had to give, offer, and be? Or do you want to die living an unfulfilled life? Now, I guess in many respects, it can be an easy question to answer. So do you want to leave everything you had to give and offer and be? So i.e. in this lifetime, do you want to give it your all? Or do you want to die living an unfulfilled life, not fulfilling the things that you wanted to do because you didn't attempt them? They were kind of perhaps, things that were nice to think about, perhaps things that you thought, maybe one day I'll do this. And what happens is, that one day never comes, and you end up living an unfulfilled life. And I remember before, it was probably the first time when I come across Les Brown. Good morning, Kahanya. Thank you for joining me, Magdalena. I was listening to Les Brown, his audiobook, You Have Greatness Within You. And, this was probably one of the first times where, I guess from a professional perspective, a business perspective, somebody was saying like, do you want to live an unfulfilled life, or do you really want to go for it? And it's quite easy to say, yeah, I want to go for it. And then 5 minutes later, the motivation, it dies, or the reality of your current circumstances or environment they overpower you with sadness, depression, anxiety, and you can't move. Yeah. And the reality is that if you can hold on to that fuel, if you can hold on to that moment of what it would truly mean not to be here anymore, your own mortality, like at that point, like nothing can stop you. And I've got a few examples that I want to share with you. But I guess my question is, do you want to live an unfulfilled life, or do you want to give it your all? Do you want to give it everything, what you have to offer and be? And when I say this, guys, it's not because it's going to be easy, but actually it's going to be something worth doing, worth your while, worth your life, right? Your life's work. I don't know if you ever come across Viktor Frankl, guys, and famous author. And in his famed book, he speaks about 3 meanings of life: love, relationships, and your work. And when you start looking at the 3 meanings, or the kind of I guess where you find purpose, living to your fullest with everything you have to give, offer, and be, in all those three areas, like, is really what life is about. And people want to know, what's the secret to life, or what is life all about. It's in those three areas: love, relationships, and work. And for everybody, the amount that you put into love, relationships, and work, it varies, because everyone has their own preference. Some people want to get more focused on love, some people more on relationships, which is, could be intimate relationships, could be family, friends, your community. And your work, if you think of people like famous artists or musicians or actors or actresses, that kind of stuff, like, they put everything into their work. It could be like charitable, I guess, companies that somebody created, that kind of stuff, foundations. You can see where people have put everything into their work. So I guess when you start looking at it from that perspective, it's like, how can you hold on to that thought of not fulfilling what it is that you are meant to do? Because everybody is special, but not everybody acts on that special essence of what we have. So it is not length of life, but the depth of life. Yeah. And when you start looking at things like that, and obviously it's a quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson. When you start looking at things like that, this really does matter. And I've got a personal story that I'm going to share with you as well, because truly, I guess most people want to live a long life, because they want to enjoy experiences and as much as this world has to offer in this life that you're living. And whether you believe in reincarnation or not, I'm guessing most of us want to get the most out of what you're doing right now in this life, right? So how can you use death as fuel? So as I said to you, with death, and usually, and I'll share this point with you, usually it's something that happens external to you because you're a witness to it. And the one thing I would say is that when death does happen, yeah, you can let it drive you. You can let it motivate you to deliver on your purpose. And I'll share a story with you. So whether you know this or not, my father died when I was 11 years old, which is nothing unusual. People dying, it's part of life. But from my perspective, my world had like crumbled in. It had like crashed, right? And at the age of 11, my father was only 29 years old himself. Yeah. So I'm 40 now. And I remember when I hit 29 and thinking at the time, like, wow, like my dad died at this age. He literally died, I think it was like a month and a half after his 29th birthday. So like 6 weeks after. And so when I hit 29, I was thinking, oh shit, there's so much more life to live. There's so much more things to do. And for me, if I go back to the feelings of being an 11-year-old, whose father died, and for me, my father was my kind of hero. He was my superhero, as a young boy. When I think about that version of Leon, 11 years old, for me, death was just like, it was this morbid experience. It was a cold experience. I remember going to the hospital, actually, in the morning when my father died, and actually seeing him on the hospital bed, laying there dead. Yeah. And before I went to see my father, because at this point, I just want you guys to understand the difference in feelings, which is, I believe it's important, having gone through this. Before I went to see my father, I think it was my nan, one of my aunties, and the doctor was there saying, if you don't feel up to it, you don't have to see him. But in me, 11 years old, I wanted to see my dad. I'd always seen my dad for my whole 11 years. So when I went to see him, I remember that moment where my father was lying there and I put my hand on his arm and hand. And I remembered that feeling of no life. It's hard to explain, but if you've been through it, you'll understand. But I just remember that feeling of no life. And it's like this energy, this warmth, and I'm not trying to make this just a logical thing, because it was more than that. I could just feel within me, it was just no life. When I touched my dad, it wasn't like normally touching my dad, or holding his hand type of thing. So the point I want to get to is at 11 years old, it was this crushing thing and it was this fear thing. Whereas at 40 years old, I don't fear death. Yeah. what I fear above everything else is not fulfilling what I'm meant to be doing, what I'm meant to do here on this earth. And for me, like that motivates me. That's the thing that like regularly forces me to look inward, and it kicks me up the ass like no end. And that's the thing that I find hard to move away from. It kind of pulls at me because it's like, Leon, what are you gonna do? You know, are you going to continue to live up to what you say that you're going to do? And what I would say for you guys is that let it drive you, let it motivate you, because whether you've experienced death close to you or not so close, or just somebody perhaps famous or somebody you invested emotions in, but you didn't have like a close relationship, but you know, you feel some kind of connection with that person. What I would say to you is that feeling, let it motivate you to deliver on your purpose, to deliver on the things you say you're going to do, and hold yourself accountable. And a lot of us shy away from those things because, oh, I've got the responsibility of my children, my parents, my community, my family. And what happens is you put these responsibilities in the way and make them excuses to not deliver on what it is you're meant to do. And what I would say to you is that some of these things perhaps are your purpose. Remember, love, relationships, and your work. So if it is responsibilities around relationships, around love, or around your work, make sure that what you're doing is going to lead you to what you're here for. Yeah, and that you are going to act on it. So let it drive you is the first thing. Number 3 is, rather than expect everything to work out, it can help to move you out of your comfort zone. And so let me explain what I mean by this. Like, so obviously, as I explained to you, my father, when he passed at 11, for me, I expected my father to to be there as I grew older, as I grew into an older man. When I had a family, he would become like granddad, and I would experience those things of what it would be like to do something as an adult with my father. So I expected life to work out, you know, just as you do as a young boy. And so with that not happening, and getting to, I guess, a stage in my life where I've had children. I've got 3 children now. My mother, fortunately, she's still here. So I've experienced what it's like to have my mother as an adult man. All the different experiences, the challenging times of, you know, failed relationships, failed business. What you've got to look at is everything won't work out. So for me, what I find is that if it's not all going to work out, why not pursue the things that you're meant to do and use it as fuel, as really go for what it is that you're meant to go for, to not worry about what other people are going to say. You know, I've come across a lot of business owners where they're worried about what people will say because they're actually going for what they really want to go for. And it's like, what a paradox. So they're worried about what people will say rather than go for the thing that's going to fulfill them. And when you use mortality, you are not going to have all the time, you know, that God or the universe is given to you. You may have that gift in you. You may have that drive to deliver on that gift and fulfill your purpose. But if you don't act, if you only have the drive but you don't act, if you don't use these things to move you out of your comfort zone, you will forever, I guess, get to the point where you do live up to that self-fulfilling prophecy of not living up to your purpose. And for me, you know, like, that's what I truly fear. You know, like, I don't fear death, because having gone through it from a young age, and then like uncles, my granddad, I remember when my granddad passed away, I think I was 27, you know, like what I started to realize is that it really is something that is going to happen to all of us. Because if you haven't experienced it, and I've been around people who they never experienced death, from their family, their parents, their brothers, their sisters, their grandparents, they're all still alive type of thing. But for me, it happened at a young age. And so I'm not trying to say it was an advantage, but yet it was, yeah, because it made life real to me. And as a business owner, like, I can use that as fuel. I can use those experiences to know that actually, like, things don't last forever. So you got to make the most and act on the things that you say you're going to do. You've got to get over your ego that puts the excuses or the barriers or the reasons why you can't do something, and you have to go beyond it. And this really isn't like, it's not an easy thing, guys, because when somebody close to you does pass away, the emotions of that experience, if you've never gone through it, like they can really overpower you, and they cause you to step into this place of perhaps being stuck if it impacts you in that way. Don't get me wrong, there's some people who, when it happens to them, they go through that momentarily where, let's say they are stuck, but they step into this place of mourning, and they go through this process from, I guess, not necessarily a negative experience, but appreciation and gratitude for that person and the life that they experienced. But a lot of people, and I experienced it as a youngster and as I grew older with other deaths, but they come from this place of like, wow, like I can't even explain the emotions that you go through are like really, really powerfully huge, in the sense of that they can hold you where you are. And if you're not if you're not a person who can see outside of themselves and see the bigger picture, it can hold you there for years. And don't get me wrong, there's people who they still talk about the death of somebody close to them because they never quite got over it. And in many respects, you don't get over it, but what happens is, as you go through life and you change, and then you think about different aspects of what it means to live a fulfilled life and be you realize that actually you don't have to be held to those emotions, depression, stress, anxiety, the inertia of what it means to have death around you. You start to realize that actually life is about love. It's love for your work, love for those people around you, love for the people that were with you, were alive, and going for those things that you want and forging new relationships. And I'm just going to come to some comments, guys. Hopefully this is making sense. If it's useful, just give me a thumbs up, give me a heart. I do appreciate you guys watching. So I'm just coming now. Important topic from Alexandra. Yeah, it's very important. I used to shy away from death when I was in my 20s, just setting out my first business, because it was something I thought I'd experienced, but I didn't really grasp it. You know what was actually a big thing for me, guys? So when I hit 29, that was one step, because now I'd reached the age of when my father passed away. But when I was 27, when my son was born, I don't know what it was, but like having that experience and being a father kind of brought, I guess it's almost like the Lion King. And I don't want to make this like a humor thing, but it was like the circle of life. And I'm not saying this to joke. I'm saying this as that was like, it was a realization moment for me. Like, wow, like, this is what it is about. And again, that was fuel for me, because now I had the responsibility of, now I'm a father. Venka, he's put nice points, Leon. Alfred, this is a great topic. Thanks for this today. Alfred, you're welcome. Alfred, is funny actually. Alfred, who's watching this, he has the same name as my grandfather. I think I met Alfred about 3 or 4 years ago, and actually we are related. We do go back to our heritage in Jamaica, so that in itself, Alfred, was interesting. My grandfather obviously passing away, and then meeting you with the exact same name. Sven, this is something I'm dealing with right now. Sven, yeah, when you're dealing with it, like, go through it. Don't push the emotions away, because you learn about you. You learn about what you think life is meant to be, and you learn about these emotions and what that person meant to you. But the biggest thing is knowing that no matter what happens, you come out the other side of it. The other person can't, and that's the important thing. You come out the other side, so continue living your life to the fullest. That's what death teaches you, and it brings it home. Venka, you're fulfilling your life purpose by this talk. Venka, I appreciate you, and I agree. Like, that is part of me to share my experiences and help business owners in many different topics. I'm like, I'd love to be talking about marketing and sales all the time, but the reality is that ain't life. Life is relationships. Life is death. Life is new life. Like, I have a 7-month old daughter. She'll soon be 8 months, and even that experience, these different things they're great experiences of being a human being. But unless you act on these different things, and that's what this talk is really about, because I want you to use this as fuel, because death really does bring home, that I don't want you to think, oh, we only have a limited time, because as the quote that I had a moment, it's the depth of life. It's not how long you live. It's the depth of your life. It's the depth to the degree that you deliver on your purpose, on the things that you say you're going to do, knowing that you have lived a fulfilled life. And that's a big thing for me. So Tiffany, this is powerful. So true. Death is a way to push us more to our purpose. Yeah. 100%. So this is the third part, and then I've got another slide that I want to share with you. So how can you use death as fuel? So the thing is, when death happens, like, you know, you will feel stuck. And I can go back to the death of my father, because there's no way for me. I can't even begin to share the true emotion and feeling that you experience until like you lose somebody close to you, because, you know, it doesn't have to be a father, your mother. It can just be someone that you're really close to. But it can help make complication of feelings clear. And let me explain what I mean by this. When you're going through it, you will be all over the place. Like, everybody handles death differently. It's not like steps 1 to 10 and you get over death and you feel better. Trust me, that shit doesn't happen like that. You have to go through a process, and the process is with you and it's individual to you because of what that person meant to you, right? As well as all the other things that you put on top of it, the other extra meaning, because in life there's different things where, depending on what angle we come from, victor or victim, we can spice things up a bit more than they actually are, right? So there are so many different factors of what death can do. But here's the point I want to get to. Once it happens to you, and you understand and you go through this process, or you understand perhaps just even in the moment of it happening to somebody who's not so close, but you can appreciate, respect, and really connect with that person for whatever reason. But it can make whatever you're doing or going through in your life much clearer. You start to cut through the crap of the false emotions that perhaps you've put upon your expectations around what life or business is meant to be, or what, you know, let's say never living up to what you believed you would do up until now in your life, and you've still got more life to live. But a lot of the time, because of our ego, we put so many false emotions into stuff, and look, I'm speaking from my own personal experience here. So however this comes across for you guys, I want you to just kind of like see if you can relate. Sometimes we create so much bullshit around why we haven't done something that we start to create this false story, cloud it, and that adds to us feeling stuck. But when you see death, when you experience death, when you acknowledge what death really is, and that yes, it will come to you, it can make complicated things seem clear and simple, because you start you start with looking at life as it is and stop telling the false story. You stop making the excuses. And even if it only happens in like a 5-second or a 10-second burst, but that moment you feel that clarity, that energy, that's the thing that you've got to hold on to. That's the fuel, guys. That's what I'm talking about in this talk. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share a couple more slides, and then like this will conclude what I'm getting to. So this is a quote. A man, and I'm paraphrasing this quote, a man or woman with outward courage dares to die. Yeah, a man or woman with outward courage dares to die. But a man or woman with inner courage dares to live. Now, this is important, guys. And the reason why I wanted to share this part with you is because it doesn't matter what other people think of you, what other people say of you. Live to what you are called to do. That's the most powerful thing you can do in this life. And I'm going to add a little bit extra to that. What I'm saying there is that you may have to live this life with some consequences, not death, but consequences in other areas of your life, whether it's emotions, relationships, financial, time, family, the environment that you're in. But that's the most courageous thing you can do, which will lead you to your purpose. Yeah. And on that note, here is fuel. So, you know, there's a lot of people that pass in this world who die, right? And I've just picked out a few people who've passed away in 2020. And I guess in many respects, these are people that both I can relate to, other people can relate to. And I think it's important to acknowledge these people. And this talk came out of yesterday. If you look at the top right of my screen, you'll see Black Panther, as I like to refer to him as, yeah, Mr. Boltzmann. And the point I want to get to here is that sometimes it's in life, you can experience things, you can experience motivation, you can be inspired and driven because there's somebody who, I guess, personified something that you truly hold in high regard, or you respected. And for me, this actor that we see here, he passed away yesterday, right? He was 43 years old. But here is how I use his death and as fuel and motivation. What most people didn't know, me included, is that for the past 4 years of his life, in the prime of his career as an actor, he was going through cancer. Yeah. And as he was going through cancer, he was part of some of the biggest movies in history, like literally movies that have grossed more than $1 billion each. And that was fuel for me. Like when I saw it at first, I couldn't believe it because, it's always shock. Like you don't believe it, but yet you do, because it's a natural part of life, but you just don't expect it sometimes, I guess, from heroes or people that you look up to or you look into, however, you look at people. And I just remember, like, what was it that is fueling me? And what I realized, it was the depth of his life. It's what he achieved since 2013 when he landed his first major role in the film 42, which is where he played Jackie Robinson, which was a famous black baseball player who was the first black baseball player to get into the major league, I guess, the league for white players, right? And at the time it was a big thing because racially black players weren't playing in the major league of baseball. And since 2013 he went on, did Black Panther, who's part of the Marvel universe, which included Avengers and yada yada yada, whether you follow films or not. And then you've got Ben Cross, bottom right corner, another famous actor, played in, I think it was Ben-Hur, the film, famous film from back in the day. I don't know the exact year. You've got top left, Maya Rivera. She's from, I think it's Glee, which is like a very popular TV program for like teens and so on, and adults as well. And then bottom left, again, this was a big one for me, Kobe Bryant. So famous basketball player, 41, so 1 year older than me. Passed away in a helicopter crash with his daughter next to him, Gigi. And here's what I want to say about this. So when I talk about death and what I'm sharing here, guys, it's not from a place of sadness. It's from a place of appreciation, respect, and love. Seeing these people as human beings that actually did something, the depth of life. Like Kobe Bryant, he was a famous basketball player. And for me, I played basketball up until the age of 17. I played for my home city in Wolverhampton under 17s. But he was like very similar age to me. He came out of high school, and went straight into the NBA basketball league. So he skipped going to university, which is normally the process that you go through. You go high school, university, and straight from there to the NBA. He skipped all that because he was a gifted talent. He ended up winning 5 NBA titles. He won an Oscar because when he retired from the NBA, he created this short animation film, which was bred out of a letter he wrote to basketball as an ode to say thank you for his career, which they then turned into this this animation, which was amazing. And then he said at the time when he was playing, he had this thing called the Black Mamba Foundation, where he would help the younger generation to play basketball, had a whole academy, all these different things. But when you look at the depth of life and what people do, this is the part that I want to conclude on, guys, is that use death and use the people that, have died, whether famous celebrities in your community, close to you in your family, as fuel. Because we do have a limited amount of time. And so what I want to leave you with is, it's down to you to, let me find the right words. It's down to you to live the fullest life that you can by overcoming you as the obstacle, because you are the obstacle. And you, when I say you, I'm talking about your ego, because your ego will help you in some experiences, but it will also hold you back, because the things that do concern you, the things that do bother you, the things that you do fear are those things that you must overcome in order to live to your purpose. And living to your purpose doesn't mean that life is easy. Living to your purpose doesn't mean that it's just going to work out the way that you want it to. No, in that experience, in those experiences, in that journey is where you find yourself, yeah, your true self. And so for me, it doesn't matter if you're experiencing it personally, you're experiencing it from afar, let it fuel you to drive your life forward. Let it fuel you to drive your business forward. And if you can hold on to that thought, if you can hold on to what mortality means for you, if you can hold on to, rather than using death as the excuse not to move forward, but using it as a reason why you should move forward, using the love that you have for that person or the respect that you had for them to drive you, that's what it's about, guys. You got to show up. No matter what you do, show up. Showing up is the greatest thing you can do, because if you do, as I say, I don't know the exact quote, but if you die with the music left in you, that's probably one of the biggest regrets that as human beings we have. They've done research where people are on their deathbed and they ask them, and they've asked questions saying, what's the biggest regret that you have? And for most people, it's not living up to the things that they could have done. It's not fulfilling everything that was possible. It's putting things off for a rainy day. It's putting things off in case somebody says something about them. So the final part, guys, is just make it happen. I enjoy life. I respect what death is, but I use it as fuel. I don't fear death, and neither should you. It's part of this process of being alive. It's the one thing that we are guaranteed after birth, guys. So, live life as much as you can, but use it to drive you. Make it happen, guys. And that's it. So, I'm hoping you can use it. And there's a smile on my face for a reason, guys. I hope you can use it to motivate you to do the things that you're born to do, to live up to what you need to do in your business and make the world a better place, and create opportunities for other people. That's why there's a smile on my face, because that's what death is for me. It's you live with that depth of life, and you're going to help other people in this life. And that's what it's about, guys. So thanks for watching this morning. I appreciate every one of you. Alfred, Venka, I appreciate you. Katrina, thank you. Tiffany, Sven, if you are going through it and you just want to talk, and thanks, Paul, for watching as well, and Alexandra. If you want to talk and you haven't got anybody to talk to, just message me, guys. I'm more than happy to have a chat with you and just share from my own experiences if it helps you with whatever you're going through right now. I'm not a counselor, but I'll have a conversation with you. And on that note, guys, thanks for watching. Remember, I'll be back next Sunday, 8:30 a.m. But if you want to learn more about marketing and sales, join me on Wednesday evening, 8:30 p.m. UK time. But other than that, have an amazing bank holiday weekend if you're in the UK, and just enjoy the rest of your weekend around the world. Thanks for watching. Take care. Have a great day. Bye-bye.